is up, guys? It is Education from Rakurai Network here, and today I have a very special video for you guys. I know that at some point in this little Dragon Ball Super review series that I've been doing that I would eventually cover the Trunks arc, but I'm kind of jumping the gun a little bit because I feel like that specific arc deserves multiple videos because it's a very difficult arc to defend if you just sincerely love it. But along with me today, I brought upon someone very special to the channel to help me discuss, simply not to start an argument in the comments or anything like that, just talking about the appeals of the Trunks arc, the things that we personally enjoyed, that we know not everyone will enjoy, but just the things that we personally had fun with. So everyone, please welcome Alex the Gaming Claw to the channel today. How you doing?
I'm good, and this has actually been one of my very first Dragon Ball Super videos in a long time, because the majority of the time I just do Dokkan now, but it's a pleasure to be here, bro.
Man, I'm so happy that you're here, honestly. Like, I know that we've always had, like, a mutual thing where we both love the arc so much, and we're kind of alone in that, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was figuring, let's go Breakfast Club on it, and just, like, sit in a circle and give our reasons for why.
I mean, it's kind of a love-hate thing with this arc, isn't it? Because a lot of people love it, and a lot of people hate it, and there are a few things in this particular arc that I think could have been executed better, don't get me wrong, but like, when I look at every single series, or just every single arc in the entirety of the series, this is definitely up there. It may honestly be my favorite arc, just because every single episode just has something about it. Like, even right from the start, you have the moment where Goku Black kills Bulma, and that just sets the tone straight away. It's, okay, this is actually a dark arc, they are taking things seriously. And that was something that was a bit of a complaint when it came to Super, because a lot of people complained that it wasn't dark enough, there wasn't enough, like, there wasn't a threat, basically, and that kind of put people off in comparison to, like, Z or Dragon Ball, where there was constantly a real threat. Granted, because it's a shonen, the majority of the time the heroes are going to win, but it's nice to know that there is some sort of threat. And at first, Goku Black was, you know, always in his base form, so people were like, oh, okay, so how is he supposed to compete with guys like Goku that have, like, Super Saiyan Blue and such? But right from the start, you could tell that Goku Black was definitely a menacing character, and he is by far my favorite villain. Before he was Frieza, but for me personally, I mean, everyone knows at this point that Zamasu is Goku Black, but by being in Goku's body for so long, you can see that he is still partly Zamasu, and he still has the same goals. But being in Goku's body for so long, like, all those Saiyan cells, essentially, like, just changed who he actually was as a person. And I personally love that about the character, is just how he evolved into Goku in a way, but he just still has the same morals as Zamasu. So that was one of the things that I definitely liked about Goku Black. And I just love how they executed his character for the majority of the arc. It's a shame that he didn't close off the arc. Don't get me wrong, I do like Zamasu, but I do feel like it would have been cool if they ended it off of Goku Black in a way.
I agree. I agree with that, because Goku Black is one of those characters that, and I'm about to piss off my entire comment section, we're not even 5 minutes into the video, but I've always liked the idea of an evil Goku. That's always just been something that just, you know, crossed my mind, and I liked it. Sort of like the whole thing with Sonic versus Shadow. I've always liked that little, you know, more malevolent version of our protagonist there. But Goku Black was a character that was executed so well, I think. And as Alex just explained,
easily.
Like, it was done so well. It was. I mean, I know that there were a few things that could have been better with it, like, which I didn't think about until you made the tweet. I think, was it you that said that if they showed Goku's face, like, that it would have made it so much more impactful, because it's showing that Bulma's literally getting killed by her best friend. Like,
yeah, I don't think it was me that said that, but I think it would have been a bit more impactful. But it's still there, right? You still know that the last thing future Bulma saw was the face of her best friend killing her, and that is pretty damn dark.
It is.
Like, especially for Dragon Ball Super standards. Like, damn.
Yeah, it's incredibly dark. Like, it's, like you said, it sort of was, from the first episode of the arc, things just went from 0 to 100 immediately. Like, after Shozet's dynamic played, the entire episode was just something else, man. It just, that entire episode just blew me away. The animation was incredible. The concept of Goku Black and that freaking ending sequence where he first appears is one of the most alpha moments in Dragon Ball. Like, do not at me.
For real.
It was so awesome. And I know one thing about Goku Black in particular that I didn't expect to like, but I ended up loving, is Super Saiyan Rose. Because when those leaks first came out, I'm gonna be honest with you, it didn't flow with me well. It was one of those things where I was just like, pink hair, come on guys, that's a bit much now. But when I saw it in action, and when I saw like how it was animated so beautifully with the dark pink
aura.
Yes, with the dark pink aura and everything, and even how Dokkan did it, it was just done so well. And it just, Super Saiyan Rose is probably tied with Super Saiyan God as my favorite transformation now, just because of
I would have to agree.
Yeah, I just expected something that would just make me feel frustrated, but then I ended up coming out of it being so freaking entertained, and his power was crazy. Like, it just shows how powerful the idea of a god corrupting a Saiyan's body can be. Like, it was just it was just nuts. And like you said as well, you can tell that certain decisions made throughout the arc, that Goku Black, or just Zamasu, was being slowly affected by Goku himself. Like, it was overcoming him in certain ways. Like, for example, why wouldn't he wish for immortality? Which a lot of people said was a plot hole. But to me, that's showing how he's slowly becoming, overcome by these Saiyan cells. These Ningen that he hates so much. Those tendencies are slowly overcoming him, and they're slowly just changing him into a completely different guy. It was just Goku Black in general. I agree with you. Favorite villain, bar none. Frieza may be the most iconic to me forever, but Goku Black, in terms of what we expected versus what we got and how it was executed, Goku Black will forever have a huge place in my heart with that.
He just executed in such a way that it just made him so memorable, because he had so many memorable moments throughout the entire arc. Of course, you have the first episode where he appeared. You have him fighting Goku in like the first few episodes. You have him killing Bulma and Goten and Chi-Chi. Just so many moments like that stood out. And this guy is just a savage throughout the entire arc, and that is one of the things that I absolutely loved. And one thing that kind of annoyed me is how people said that Rose wasn't arsehole, but it's literally the equivalent of Super Saiyan Blue. Exactly. It's just Goku Black, Super Saiyan Blue.
Yeah.
It's legit a corrupt Super Saiyan Blue. Like, there is nothing wrong about that, because you could tell, like, I think it was after he returned back to the future, after the fight with Goku, he says, okay, so this is the power of Super Saiyan Goku. So he clearly has obtained or has a better understanding of how Goku's body is working out, and we see like Goku's body kind of appear for a few seconds once he gets into that stance, and that is telling you that he's essentially getting used to Goku's power, because it kind of I mean, we can go back to the Frieza saga, where Ginyu is in Goku's body, and everyone's basically saying that he hasn't had enough time to adapt to his body, and that is essentially what Goku Black, or Zamasu, is doing in Goku's body. So it happened over a period of time, clearly, and you have to keep in mind that he was using Goku's body for at least a year, and that was after he destroyed multiple other worlds. So of course, after fighting Goku, he got a better understanding of how Goku's body works, which is something that, of course, I would imagine he was attempting to do for a long while. And of course, he had that overpowered Zenkai boost that, well, essentially a Zenkai. He kept getting stronger and stronger, and even after that beatdown from Vegeta, this man just came out of nowhere. It's like, okay, here I am, I'm like super strong again. I kind of wish that the whole scythe thing went a bit further, and he actually used it instead of just opening that portal up. But as a question, did that happen in the manga?
I know that there were multiple
Zamasus,
but there weren't, or just Zamasu. I can't remember if they were merged or just Zamasu, but I know that there were. Oh wow, that cough is bad. But there were multiple Zamasus at some point, but I don't remember the scythe thing specifically, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's just he just had so many like great moments in the arc. He was just a great villain from start to finish. Like I said before, I kind of wish that he closed off the arc, because it would have been nice for him to be the end of it. I did like the ending, like you said, but I think it would have been a bit cooler if it did end up with Goku Black. And the exact same thing happened in the manga. It did kind of end off with Merge and Martian, the entire Xeno thing. And like, before we do move on to just like something else that isn't related to Goku Black, I think one of the things that kind of made him even better was Nozawa's performance as Goku Black, because that woman was just absolutely incredible as Goku Black. That her performance was just phenomenal from start to finish.
Facts,
and I'm personally not a big fan of the dub Goku Black, and don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the dub after Kai. Kai dub is the GOAT. Like, I really enjoyed the English dub, but the Goku Black stuff, I'm not exactly the biggest fan of. It kind of gives away the entire character because he legit is British when he is in Rose. And if that doesn't give away that Goku Black is Zamasu, I don't know what does. Because that was like one of the biggest things about the entire arc, like who is Goku Black? Of course we do find out eventually, but it's like, okay, so if this man turns British when he goes Rose, I think it's pretty obvious who Goku Black is, you know? Yeah. And they kind of ruined it with the Xenoverse 2 dog, because I saw an image where he's like, I can't remember the exact wording, Goku but Black it talks about... Oh my god, the lines are so bad. But there was a line in particular that kind of gave away the entire mystery completely, and to people that haven't seen the series, it's like, okay, so Goku Black is Zamasu, and they haven't even seen the show. The show isn't even up to that point yet. I think they legit just got to the Universe 6 versus Universe 7 stuff, which hopefully is going to be cool, but going back to the actual, Future Trunks arc, another thing that I really liked about it is how they involved a lot of the side characters. For example, you have Mai, you have Bulma, you have Trunks as well, who in the manga legit had nothing to do, and that's one of the things that annoy me the most. This is the Future Trunks arc, and this man legit gets no time in his own story. And granted, I know a lot of people don't like Super Saiyan Rage, but if you haven't seen it already, can I quickly plug a video that's not mine?
No, that's cool.
I don't know if you've seen it, but Dino's video regarding the Super Saiyan Rage transformation, basically what he said in that video was that because he's been fighting Goku Black for like such a long period of time, the inhabitants of that universe were just giving Trunks energy unintentionally. And as you can see in episode 66 of Dragon Ball Super, they kind of do the exact same thing with that finale, where they are giving him their energy for that Spirit Bomb attack. And what Dino's theory is that over time, that energy, which is the blue in Rage Trunks' aura, is actually the energy from all of the inhabitants of Earth. Does that make any sense?
That's actually... Oh yeah, I do remember seeing that video. That was actually really interesting. It
was a great theory.
Yeah, it is.
It makes sense. So like, the blue in Rage Trunks' aura is the energy from all the inhabitants of Earth. And I really like that theory. It's probably the thing that makes the most sense. And it kind of happens again in episode 66, where his aura goes blue. It's the exact same when he receives the key from all the inhabitants of Earth, or the ones that were left for a period of time. So
I like that.
And yeah, I think it was definitely a well thought out theory. And apparently you can see it better in the game, the blue aura. But like another thing that I did like was the transformation just throughout the entire arc. I know some people like the longer transformations, and I have to agree that in some scenarios, the longer transformations can be a bit more impactful. But I love the Vegito blue one, even though it was pretty short. Rose was amazing. I think Rage Trunks was probably my favorite transformation. Just and that's another thing. The music, just the entire score for this particular arc, just made it so much better. Seriously, it was yeah, especially in comparison to some of the previous arcs. The way that the I think it's, what's his name? Is it Sumitomo?
Yeah.
Yeah. This man just composed some of the most beautifully sounding tracks that I've ever heard, especially for Dragon Ball. And they would just play so perfectly without, throughout these entire transformation sequences. You have one for Super Saiyan Rose, you have Super Saiyan Rage Trunks, you have Vegito Blue, and he actually reused some tracks from Kai, and I'm not the biggest fan of the Buu Saga soundtrack because some of it is repetitive and it just doesn't sound too great. But he utilized some of the tracks from Kai perfectly, and it just fitted some scenes super well.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I definitely like about the arc. And there are just so many good things about the arc that I definitely like. You have the score, you have the characters. But yeah, do you have anything else to add to that?
Okay, first off about the soundtrack. When you were mentioning the Kai soundtracks, and that was what I was going to mention too. One thing that I love was the fact that there were certain Kai soundtracks that popped up. Like, for example, the theme in the Buu Saga where Goku goes Super Saiyan 3.
Saiyan 3, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one that they used for the Vegito versus Zamasu fight, which, by the way, I want to throw this out there real quick. One thing that I love very much about this arc, I think a lot of people underplay. no matter the
animation?
retcon, no matter what happened with Vegeta Blue's screen time, this man had one of the most epic fights in Dragon Ball Super up until this point.
He really did.
Like, it was so freaking awesome. It was just, the animation was fluid, it was fast paced. I know a lot of people complained that it was just sped up to look better, but gosh darn did it look better being sped up. Like, my gosh, man. Like, that fight was incredible. And what you were saying about the long transformations, I think in certain scenarios like this, with Rage Trunks, for example, my theory has always been that this is just basically mostly just the culmination of everything that he's ever been through in his entire life. You know, hence Rage, because like this man has literally been through everything imaginable. And I know a lot of people said that, again, the form is just sort of arbitrary in appearance, but if you think about it, Trunks deserved this. Like, this is something that he's deserved, and the fact that, you know, I've always thought of it in the way that this alone put him like so close to the peak of godhood almost. His rage alone from all these years of just being beat down all this time has just basically just made him just sprout into something incredible. And that, along with the fact that a lot of people forget that hybrids have the most potential. Like it's crazy. And you know, one little anecdotal thing real quick, imagine a Universe 6 hybrid real quick. That would...
Oh my god. With the way that they evolved as well?
Yeah.
Damn.
That sounds too OP, but this entire arc has had so much going for it. For, you know, the side characters, for example. I know there was a very, very common complaint. It wasn't even just one person. It was multiple people that I saw. A lot of people said that they didn't like the fact that, you know, Goku wasn't the main focus of it. And while I can agree and sympathize with that, I love the fact that it wasn't just Goku in this arc. And I think that for the sake of Dragon Ball being fresh and original every so often, they need these other characters to be involved. Like Vegeta, for example, this man had some very, very strong bonding with his son, which we saw very briefly at the end of the Cell arc, but this basically just encapsulated all of that. Like, the fact that he would train him, the fact that, you know, for example, the father-son Gallic gun. I love that scene, and that just
it was a great moment.
So much. And there were so many callbacks to the Cell arc, you know, the biggest one being that Trunks is the catalyst to all this starting. That father-son Gallic gun literally showed me what this arc was. It took every single high note. Like, even in the most tense of moments, there were tiny comedic things here and there. Like, for example, there's the part where I think it was Zamasu just going off on this little tangent about, like, you know, mortals are bad, gods are good, stuff like that. And then Goku Black looks at him and he's like, you know, nobody's listening, right? And it's like, yeah, I'm just being pretentious. And then Goku Black says, how godlike. And it's just funny. Like, they literally intertwined everything so well in this arc. I think it sometimes makes me, you know, I see all the complaints. I mean, obviously me tweeting that the Trunks arc, that I like the Trunks arc, that alone is going to trigger a lot of people saying what they didn't like about the arc. That's just to be expected. But for me, there's so much that was right about this arc. There was so much good to it, you know, like just the overall tone of it was just something that, for one, super needed, and for two, it was just, again, done so incredibly well that it would just basically point a high note for Super, and I would heck say Dragon Ball for that point forward, just because of what that entire arc basically meant to the rest of the series. And for one, you know, the certain moments with Goku's character making weird decisions here and there, I know that there were points where, you know, it was just used for a punchline, which I liked the punchline, but it's just the fact that these characters aren't perfect. They're going to make mistakes. You can't expect fictional characters to make good decisions all the time. The way for fictional characters to be relatable is for them to have flaws similar to us human beings even watching the show. It's just, you know, there's so much that I just love so much about this arc. It's just, you know, most of it, as you all can tell from this video, was just how highly we regard Goku Black, just as a villain overall, and overall just what he represented in Dragon Ball from that point. And the fact that Zamasu's reason for doing all of this is one of the first ones where you can actually look at it and think, well, crap, does he have a point?
It's actually justified, Trump, what?
Right, like you know, the whole Zamasu is right meme, that wouldn't be a thing if he didn't have a somewhat decent motive. Like, he was a very well-written Dragon Ball villain. I think a lot of people undermine him. Like, you know, for example, in Merge Zamasu form, for one, a lot of people didn't understand why the forms sort of seemed to be like splitting apart. They explained in the show, one half is mortal, one half is not mortal. It doesn't mix. And because of that, there was so much of Zamasu's mind that was just being corrupted. And Gowasu actually explained it in one of the episodes, I believe. But man,
yeah, I think he actually explained it in 66 that like all of these emotions and motives are like just breaking his body apart essentially. And that's what was causing that form. And I really like that touch. It really showed how much of an inner struggle Zamasu has within himself. And I think that's another thing that adds to his character. Even from the very start, this man wasn't necessarily evil. He was just like, okay, so clearly, like, we're just sitting here and all these humans are like starting wars and stuff like that. But then you have the stuff with the barbarians. You have Goku having the power of the gods, and that, like, it pushes him to the point of belief where he believes that it's dangerous for humans to be as strong as gods because they have way too much power. And he, like you said, I definitely feel like you have the best motive by far to actually do these things. I think that for the most part, the majority of his actions from his perspective can be somewhat justified because they are just sitting there doing nothing, just watching all of this go on. And that's one of the things that I definitely like. I didn't really like how they did it in the manga, because in the manga, this man just watched Super Saiyan Blue Goku on the TV, and it's like, okay, I have to kill people now. They definitely executed. Yeah, they definitely executed it a lot better in the anime, and there were just like so many different, like the build up to the point where he got to, like, it's weird. Like, the build up was great. And, of course, you had the present Zamasu that died, and you had the future one. But you could tell that there were a few similarities between the two in a way, if that makes any sense. And I do have to say, another thing that I liked about this was that it didn't have a happy ending. Well, it kind of did, but at the same time, it kind of didn't. And that's a lot different from what we've had in the previous arcs. Because, in the end, despite everything that Trunks did, he got the kill. Like, he essentially saved his universe for the most part, or so he thought. And everyone just ended up dying anyway. The entire universe is gone. Granted, he did go to a point in the future where there are there's an additional Mai and Trunks. But they did get to live, but like, he's going to have to live his entire life knowing that he couldn't save his universe. And then, yeah, of course, you had that touching moment with like Gohan and such, which was just such an emotional moment for a lot of people. And I, low-key, almost cried. So that was such an emotional moment, and I was kind of annoyed that wasn't in the manga, because that was one of the things that I really liked about that ending. And the thing about that last episode that I know a lot of people didn't like is the fact that you had that whole Zamasu taking over the universe thing, but I wasn't too bothered about that. I suppose, okay, whatever. But you have Zamasu killing basically all the inhabitants that remain on Earth. You have Xeno destroying the universe, essentially. But I think the thing that made the episode by far was the fact that you had that touching moment with, you know, Trunks and Vegeta. You have the Gohan moment as well. I think that definitely made up for the last episode, and it was definitely a good finish to the arc.
Yeah, like, I agree. Like, the entire arc was basically this whole thing of, you know, this entire show has been revolving around Dragon Ball's deities and someone getting them on your side, stuff like that. Resurrection F basically being an example of, crap, what would we do without these guys? But then the Trunks arc flipped the whole thing on its head, and I covered this in an earlier video a long time ago, back when, you know, the video was trash, but if you want to watch it, guys, like, then by all means do so. The Dark Themes of Dragon Ball Super, where I was basically saying that with the with the Trunks arc, it basically was saying what happens when the gods aren't on your side, but rather there's one who thinks absolutely nothing of humanity and wants to destroy them. Like, that's what this entire arc was doing. And with Trunks' universe getting destroyed, I know a lot of people didn't like that. Heck, it messed with me, because it was just, you know, you just feel bad for Trunks. But the impact of that scene is basically just, you know, reiterating, for me at least, for a fact, that Trunks is by far the most tragic character in Dragon Ball, bar
easily,
none.
yeah,
bar none.
And another thing that I kind of just thought of right now is that, like, it kind of puts a point across that despite, you know, you have Goku with, you know, and Vegeta with this God power, you have Trunks with this Rage power, you just have so much power, but he could still not save his universe, you know?
Yeah.
Like, from his perspective, it's like, what good is all of this power if you can't save what you love, right?
Exactly.
And that's just another thing to think about. You can have all this power, but it doesn't mean anything if you just can't save it in the end. And it's kind of unfortunate, like you said, how it ended like that. But I think it was something that Dragon Ball needed for a long time, just because I think I would have been kind of I wouldn't have been upset with a happy ending, but it's just like, it's different, and that's something that we needed instead of just the usual, oh, okay, the hero saved the day, everything's fine now.
Yeah.
And, like, you have the Universal Survival arc now, and this is, like, another extremely dark arc, because you have, like, you literally have universes dying, like, almost every single episode. And these are entire universes. Of course, we don't know how the arc is going to end, but like, the main theory, or the biggest theory that most likely will happen, is that Goku's going to win, or someone from Universe 7, and they are just going to bring back the universes that got destroyed. But I think that they are going to execute it a bit differently. I wouldn't be opposed to Universe 7 maybe losing. Or another thing that could happen is maybe the arc, well, not the arc, but the tournament is going to get interrupted, or just something along those lines, because so many things could happen at this point. Maybe we're going to have, like, an Angels versus... Well, Angel and... what's his name? Not Omni King. The one down.
The Grand Priest.
Grand Priest. Yeah, like, against the Mortals, or something along those lines. Even though the Mortals would probably get bodied, but it'll be an interesting concept.
Yeah, it would. It would. Like, one thing that Super has done, Trunks' arc and onward, is they've really emphasized... And I think even beforehand... I know a lot of people downplay it, but the stakes in Super have always been high. Like, for the Battle of Gods arc, he would have destroyed the planet. For Resurrection F, he destroyed the planet. For the Trunks arc, an entire universe got blown the freak up. It's gone. And one thing that was really impactful about that is that you got to remember, Bulma is not coming back in that timeline. That's just something that's always gonna mess with my mind.
No one is coming back.
Like, that's always gonna mess with my mind. The fact that the character who started this entire thing, she's not coming back. Like, that just, oh man, that screwed with my mind for a while. But and then the Universe Survival arc, a lot of people wonder why Frieza, for example, why not Goten and Trunks, that kind of thing. And you gotta remember, Dragon Ball has been a series full of high stakes, and I think we as fans are so used to these high stakes that they don't feel as high anymore. So universal destruction literally has no effect on what people think. Like, you know, if I were in Goku's shoes, I know the entire universe is going to be destroyed if we don't win the tournament. Like, literally, we will die. Everyone in Universe 7 will die. I'm sorry, everyone that disagrees with it, but if you realistically think that in a situation like that, Yamcha was a better choice, I can't.
Oh god.
Like I know that.
Just have him play dead the entire time.
Right. Like literally, like, have him play dead the entire time, and then just have him be the last remaining member because nobody knows that he was even there. Like.
Oh god.
That would have just.
And yeah. Go on.
Like, somebody draw that fan art, please. Like somebody in the comments, please. I will literally, like, I'll try and pay you if you do, because that would just be, that'd make me laugh to no end. But
I think I'd frame that.
I would too. But yeah, the stakes are so high, and part of the reason why the stakes are so high is because of the Trunks arc. Like, not so much because of it, but it set a much darker tone.
It set it up.
Yeah, it set things up to where we're not jumping from planetary destruction to universe destruction. We're jumping from planetary to timeline to universe. Or technically, a timeline is a universe. I don't even know, man. It's getting convoluted, but it's just the Dragon Ball world has become so expansive. And one thing I love so much about Dragon Ball Super is that it twists the mold. Is that it it makes things different. I know a lot of people say that makes it more fan fiction than it makes it Dragon Ball, but it's just that it has to be fresh for me to stay interested, really, because
exactly.
Like, if I can expect
you imagine
the same thing over and over again, it'd be boring.
Yeah. Because the majority of like Dragon Balls on Earth, so it's like it's nice to see them expand beyond that. And one thing that we didn't even mention, and going back to like the whole stakes thing, is how Goku Black just achieved so much before the entire arc even started. He killed all the gods of destruction. He destroyed the Dragon Balls. You have Zamasu who is immortal. So that just takes it to a whole new level, because you can't revive anyone in that universe. Like, the gods of destruction aren't going to help you, and that kind of makes you think. It goes back to the point about why didn't Xeno do anything, why didn't the Grand Priest do anything, and if that kind of relates to this arc now, it's like, okay, what if the Grand Priest did know about it but didn't actually do anything, because this is what he wanted to happen all along, you know. And it goes back to what's currently happening in this arc, because Xeno wants these arcs, these universes destroyed anyway, but this tournament is giving them a chance to survive. So maybe this relates to it. Maybe Xeno did know about it, but he just didn't really care, because okay, they're going to be destroyed anyway, right? So you might as well just let it happen.
Yeah, like,
but Goku Black by far achieved the most out of any villain, like easily.
Like, it's not even a contest. Like the thing about, and I know you'll agree with me on this, the fact that Zamasu did it first, then he talked crap. Like that's
exactly.
huge. That's huge, because, you know, Cell, despite the Cell arc being my favorite arc in Z, and he talked a lot of crap before anything happened. Frieza talked.
And that was with most villains. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you go back and rewatch the entire Frieza arc, it's literally, like, every time he transforms, you expect something to happen or someone dying. It just doesn't happen.
Exactly.
No one dies. Nothing happens.
When he's very well capable.
And it's the same. Yeah, and it's the same until Goku shows up. I mean, nothing really happens until he turns into a Super Saiyan. And the same process just repeats. Oh, Piccolo gets a power-up. Frieza transforms. Nothing happens.
Right.
Vegeta gets a power-up. Vegeta transforms. Nothing happens.
Yeah.
And it kind of repeats itself, and I didn't actually realize that that to quite recently, that nothing actually happens. So they could have cut like quite a lot out of that arc, but I don't know if Toriyama just wanted to milk that arc in particular, or just give enough time to Goku to come back. But I feel like in that period of time, something should have happened at least, and then you should have Frieza going on about how much power he has left, but he just doesn't do anything of it. You could have killed these guys like 10 times over now.
Yeah.
And you just haven't done it. Like, get stuff done, and that's something that Goku Black did. Kill Bulma straight away. Of course, he almost killed like Trunks, Goku, and Vegeta straight away, but you had that smoke grenade go off, which I know annoyed quite a lot of people. But you had multiple points in the arc where he actually did get stuff done, and that's something that I liked. You have Zamasu killing Gowasu for a second, and then of course you had Beast at reverse time. So these guys got stuff done. That's the important thing. And I actually wanted to point one more thing out, but I kind of forgot. So, do you have anything else to say?
Well, you know, going back to the whole, you know, he did things first, that, you know, that's really, really, really important, because, like you said, the Frieza arc, I will say this, I think the impact of it was mainly just supposed to be that you're seeing this guy who can do all of this, but he just doesn't do it. But Zamasu, he has the power to do it, and he did it. That alone makes him on a much higher caliber than Frieza for me. Because he, like you said, Goku Black, he went in, it was as if he knew that the cameras were watching him. He knew at this moment, yep, I'm about to just get started, kill Bulma first, and we'll just keep it moving. And remember this, like, even before we saw on screen the things going on, that the entire world was still in dismay beforehand. So it makes me think, was this going on during the Resurrection F arc without anyone knowing? Was this going on during the Battle of Gaza arc without anyone knowing? Like, it's kind of scary thinking about how much Zamasu or Goku Black did without the Universe 7, the regular timeline Z fighters knowing what was even going on. It's crazy.
Nah, that's a good point.
Yeah, it's nuts. Just Goku Black is, you know, if I were trapped in a room with Goku Black or Frieza, I would choose Frieza, because I know Goku Black.
Yeah, easily.
Goku Black would just be like Ningen and just kill me immediately. like it wouldn't even be.
Frieza would just play around with you. It's like, okay, bro.
Right. Like Frieza would just, you know, like he's winning the tournament right now. He would just, you know, keep death beaming just keep death beaming, just have a good time, you know, universal destruction, but you know, have a good time. Like Goku Black, man, like this it's really hard to deny, like, you know, at least that he's the most savage of all of them. Like that's easy.
Yeah,
that's easy. He's easily the most savage, and the fact that he is beating everybody, and this man has pink hair. You are getting destroyed by a man with pink hair, fam. Like,
that is amazing.
Like, this man has cherry Kool-Aid aura, bro, and they're just getting destroyed by this man. like, oh,
yeah.
It was so great. It was just so great.
And there's like one thing that I kind of wish happened is, I think that at least Zamasu or Black should have been a recurring villain. And this kind of goes on to how I would have changed a few things. And I think that the arc should have ended off with the Mafuba, because that would, you know, allow him to potentially return in the future, which definitely would have, again, it would have been something different from what we are normally used to, just, you know, our heroes defeating the villain, but having him sealed and then return at a later point in time would have been, you know, interesting. Maybe they release him for the Universal Survival arc so that he can actually help out. Granted, I don't know if he would fight for this universe or just a different one. But it would have been cool to see him return at some point in the future, because that is just something we haven't seen before. And with the Mafuba, that is something that could have happened. Of course, Demon King Piccolo got released, which is something that happened in Dragon Ball. So it could have been something similar to that. But for the most part, there are, like, it's with any arc. No arc is perfect. But there are a few things that I would have changed. But the main thing is definitely that. I kind of wish he was a recurring villain. I wish it was longer. And when it comes to, like, the length of the fights, I personally didn't mind the length of the fights. And you have to keep in mind that the majority of it just came down to the fact that the production schedule for Super just isn't that great. But I would rather have one episode with a beautifully drawn Vegito with incredible animation than multiple episodes with just okay to average, you know, art and animation. I think 2 episodes would have been fine for, like, the finale, but in the end, I am pretty happy with it. But you have to take into account that there are certain factors that we can't control that is going to determine how long the fight is, and again, that just comes down to the production schedule. And it's not like you can have Shida animating every single episode, because, you know, that'd be absolutely insane. Like, to be fair, I think even if he just animated one scene, people would be like, oh, okay, this is like the greatest episode ever, because it has an amazing animation. But one thing that, like, when it comes to the animation side, I think people tend to undermine the animation a lot, but, like, the best animation in Super is easily better than anything in Z. I know that's going to annoy a lot of people, but it's just facts. Like, you take a look at the best work in Z and compare it to Goku and Trunks versus Zamasu and Black, and then, of course, you have Vegito Blue and Merge Zamasu. Nothing in Z even comes close to that. There's just so much detail. And you have the scene, I mean, it doesn't exactly have, like, really good animation. It has, like, incredible art and, you know, pretty good animation. But you have that incredible moment with Goku and Frieza where they fight at the end of that episode, and that scene in particular, the art at that point is just absolutely incredible. The amount of detail that just went into that one scene is just way beyond anything that I've ever seen in Z.
It was incredible.
So, granted, towards the Majin Buu arc, it did step up massively. You have the Majin Vegeta fight versus Super Saiyan 2 Goku. There are definitely moments that sound out of sun, but when it comes to, like, just the detail that goes into, like, particular scenes, like, it's just absolutely insane. Shida is just an absolute god when it comes to that, and he is, like, we are fortunate enough to have this man work on the series. Granted, it doesn't appear, like, every single episode. He does appear from time to time, and I definitely expect to see him at least maybe 1 or 2 more times before this arc ends for, like, some of the bigger fights. But with, like, you can't say that the animation and art hasn't been improved, and I know that a lot of people have been, like, hating on the bank animation, but that's smart, because you are allowing your animators to work on more, you know, the scenes that are going to stand out more later on. Because why would you waste time animating the scene that not too many people are going to care about, right?
Exactly.
Like, just such an irrelevant scene in comparison to what comes later on.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's literally like a thing of, we've got to know how these animation things work. I'm no expert. I can't look at a picture and know who animated this, who animated that, because I'm not that freaking proficient yet. I'm still trying to learn from AJ, all that stuff. But it's still very important to note, again, that just being an animator in Japan is so hectic in itself. Like, and the beginning schedule for Dragon Ball Super, especially with episode 5 when it came around, was awful. The production schedule for Resurrection F, I believe, that was at a point where the production schedule for Super went from 6 weeks to 4 weeks per episode, which 2 weeks is a very, very long time. And that's just, you know, I can't hate the arc because, again, I have to bear in mind what happened, because that's just really, really stressful. And I think one thing with the Trunks arc is, you know, if they got to the point where they knew that this next arc was going to happen, that they wanted to happen soon, they very well could have rushed that entire episode for the sake of getting there. I can definitely say, for one, that the last episode, you know, while I don't personally think it was rushed, I think that it could have still been expounded upon. It wouldn't have hurt anything. But we got a very, very quality final episode for it, with some, you know, some wonky art here and there. But aside from that, the animation was really, really solid. And again, Trunks' final goodbye scene was just beautiful. Loved it. And it was just, oh god, it was just good. And I'm just, you know, with how well the Trunks arc just completely just blew me away in terms of, and a lot of people are gonna get triggered, but with its writing and with its reimagining of plot devices, stuff like that. I mean, one thing that came out of it beforehand was that people were, well, not people, but they said in announcements that this was an arc where many mysteries would be revealed. So, for example, one of those mysteries, whether it was a retcon or not, is why did Goku and Vegeta diffuse in Boo's body? That was something that happened, and
it explained a lot of things.
It did. Like, I don't know about other people, but I definitely accept that over, oh, there were chemicals in Boo's body, and yeah, because, you know, I'm a scientist, so obviously that's what happened. No, like...
And the thing is, like, it does make sense, because keep in mind that, okay, the Elder Kai said that when you fuse, it's as permanent, but keep in mind, we don't even know, because it's never been expanded upon. We don't know if the first time that he has ever fused was with that witch. We don't know if he knows more than that, and I know I saw a lot of people bring up, how does one Kai know more than the other? And you have to keep in mind that this man has been sealed in the sword for thousands of years. You take a look at the current Supreme Kai from our universe, and he just doesn't know that much. So what's to say that he doesn't know everything that there is to know about stuff like the Batara? Yeah. Like, you can't expect these guys to know everything, and that has clearly been shown in Dragon Ball multiple times. They don't know everything, especially the Kais from our universe. Guas knew that, but, like, how do we know that Vegito wasn't the first time in the history of Dragon Ball, or just, you know, ever, that, how do we know that wasn't the first time that two humans fused? Or two Saiyans, technically. So there are multiple things that you can take into account when you are discussing that retcon. But I personally think that it was, you know, it was a warranted thing to add to that episode, because it just explains what happened in the Buu arc, and I personally don't dislike it. And before, it was kind of a cop-out to use Vegito in a way. At least now, if you do use Vegito, you know that they are under a time limit, and you know that he just isn't going to destroy whoever he fights, because he is most likely going to destroy whoever he fights. So I do like that they gave him that time limit, because now it at least gives him a weakness and only gives him a limited amount of time to go ahead and face the enemy.
Yeah.
And before, that's just something that they could go to. Okay, fusion, done. So I'm glad that they go down that route, personally.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I really, you know, when I saw that, you know, the scene come up on the screen where it said mortals can't be fused forever, it didn't bother me. It appeared on the screen. I was like, okay.
It made sense.
Yeah, it was like me being mad isn't going to change the fact that it happened. And I think that's something that a lot of people got to understand, I think. Being mad about something that happens isn't going to make the super team redo the entire episode. I hope people know. Like, but like, that they're not going to see it and be like, oh man, they're right. We have to redo this entire episode now. I can't believe that we disappointed our No, it's not like that at all. Like, that scene appeared for such a short time because I don't think it was meant to be such a big deal. Like, I think it was just... Because the thing is, there's no real legitimate argument against why the retcon would make sense, other than in Z it was explained otherwise. But remember this as well, that Supreme Kai's entire character was sort of built off of this expectation that would literally be thrown out the window in a few episodes. Like when he first appeared, we're like, oh my god, it's another god, no pun intended, and that he's, you know, he should be so strong and stuff like that. And then literally a few episodes later, you see this man cowering about Majin Buu, like cowering, and you realize like, okay, maybe this guy isn't, you know, hot stuff like we all thought he was originally. And one of the biggest things about Dragon Ball is that one thing that makes it so relatable is that these characters do have their flaws. They have their problems. Even the, and I'm gonna do a video at some point concerning this as well. Just how the deities in Dragon Ball are not perfect. They're not perfect at all. They have their own respective problems. Like, you know, Elder Kai being a bit of a pervert, forgetting things every so often. Supreme Kai not being the most reliable source. You wouldn't cite him for an academic essay. It just doesn't work that way. Supreme Kai is basically the equivalent of, like, you know, basically a, what's the term? Probably the equivalent of writing an essay about global warming and using WikiHow as a source. Like, it doesn't work. Like, he's not the smartest guy in the world, but I didn't realize how much time has gone by. So yeah, I didn't realize it. So with that being said, guys, unless as you have anything else to add about any other things concerning the Trunks arc, or maybe to alleviate the anger in the comments section that's probably going right now.
I have one thing. I think if that Vegito got multiple episodes, people wouldn't have cared about the retcon.
Yeah,
that's a fact.
Yeah,
that's a fact.
I agree. I do think a lot of people really just, like, I think it was just the fact that he was on screen for such a short time made the retcon seem more impactful than it actually was. Like, it...
Easily, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about the retcon is that either way Vegito defused the first time. Why weren't there complaints when he defused the first time? But now that there's an actual explanation for why, now there's a complaint. I just don't know. I don't know, because people were saying that, well, this just makes him no better than Gogeta. And I'm like, okay, but he's not...
He still lasts longer.
Yeah, he still lasts longer, and, you know, Gogeta's not canon, so... But with that being said, with the war that's about to start in the comments, if for some reason... Because I'm sure all of you know him at this point, but if you guys have not subscribed to the Gaming Claw, he makes awesome content, card analysis, Dokkan gameplay, just everything of the sort, and he's just a really cool guy in general. So, you know, go into the description below. I'll put his link there. And if for some reason, again, you haven't subscribed, do it right now, because you won't regret it. This man is awesome. And
thank you.
No problem, man. And like we were saying earlier, everyone has their right to an opinion about the arc, for sure. We're not saying that you disliking the arc makes you a terrible person. And, you know, don't misinterpret it. Whether you like or dislike the arc, we still love and respect all of you, for sure. All that we ask is that said respect be mutual, and that, you know, we be allowed to feel how we want to feel about the arc, because it's sort of a thing where you say you like the Trunks arc, you get kind of attacked here and there about that opinion, you know, and that's not really fair. That's a big thing about improving this fandom, is that we have to get better about accepting opinions, really. But yeah, with that being said, you know, start the war in the comments. I know somebody's gonna do it. No matter how much I say don't, someone's gonna do it. So, again, subscribe to Alex if you have not, and please like the video if you enjoyed, and comment below your own thoughts about, you know, anything that we had to say about the Trunks arc. And, you know, if you want to see more videos like this where they're a bit on the longer side, but they're more of a discussion-based sort of thing. And also, share the video with people that you know and people that you don't know, but you just want to harass in my videos, in which case, thank you. And I hope that all of you have an amazing day. I love you all so much. And God bless. Peace out, everyone. And thank you again, Alex, for joining me.
No problem, bro.
Alright, peace out, everyone. Have a good one.
Shut the